Time for our review of Godzilla versus Kong after our intermission, sponsored by Zoom. I'll start by saying this once again: two monsters, one cup. Moreover, though, if you think you'll like Godzilla versus Kong, I think you probably will. You have to admire a movie that knows exactly what it's trying to be. And I went in not expecting to give a rip about the human characters, and I was not disappointed on that front. This is a no strings attached popcorn flick, and it makes me a little sadder too that I watched this on a TV screen. My neighbors recently moved out in my apartment, so the good news was I got to play this thing real loud last week, which was a lot of fun. But this is a movie made for the big screen. If you are vaccinated and it is safe to go, you definitely should make a trip, because this is a wonderful movie to roar back into theaters and get that spirit going again, to go back into the movies and see movies in an actual theater. But Legendary's MonsterVerse overall, though, has been a little bit rocky. It started with Godzilla, the Gareth Edwards movie in 2014, which I rewatched before this movie. And God, let me say, that movie, I hate to come down on that movie because it's not really bad. It's just they really tried to make something artful out of, when everybody wanted the monster. Like, it's almost Spielbergian what they tried to do with it. But at the end of the day, they got a bunch of A-list actors that didn't do a damn thing on the screen. They followed a generic soldier character. And then by the time Godzilla shows up and starts doing what he does, it's like, holy crap, it's like a Pyrrhic victory by the end of it. I admire what they did with it, but I don't find it very enjoyable to revisit.
Amazing moments, amazing cinematography at
Yes.
many parts, but as a whole picture, as a package,
It's directed well, but like, it's a Godzilla movie. We wanted to see Godzilla.
Okay, so that we'll get into this, but there are two kinds of Godzillas, and I think the movie people were expecting one thing and they got the other, and even then the other was not the best executed. So I'll get into that later.
And then you had Kong Skull Island, which I loved. I thought that was great. It was a very fun, kind of dynamic movie in characters, in the troupe that we followed, and the location. I thought that movie was a lot of fun, and it struck the right tone for what these movies should have been from the jump.
It had the best. Not the best. It's just the best one out of all these movies by far.
Thank you.
Like, when you opened with that, I was like, like, as much as I love Godzilla, like, out of the four movies here, Kong's got the best one. Like that, and you are right. Like, in terms of human characters, it knew how to do them the best out of all these movies,
and still give you what you wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Godzilla King of the Monsters guiltily. I heard it was a lot. I know audiences liked it. Critics didn't care for it. Audiences liked it a lot more because from what I understand, it was more of what people were expecting the first time around with Godzilla. From what I understand.
Really, really like that trailer. Haven't seen
it. And Joe, I think the less said the better in terms of Joe's reaction.
Yeah.
But Dom kind of said it initially. This is primarily Godzilla versus Kong, a King Kong movie, which makes sense. We got two Godzilla movies. We got one Kong movie. That was 4 years ago. So it only makes sense that this kind of focuses more on King Kong. But this is really more of a King Kong movie from the very beginning. He is the star of this.
This is actually I'm glad they took this approach. This is actually more of a sequel to Skull Island than the Godzilla King of Monsters movie. And if you don't mind me,
could you imagine Bryan Cranston being in this movie somehow?
Take it, Joe.
If you don't mind me, just saying this right now, I'm glad as much as I love Godzilla and everything, I'm glad it focused on Kong, because I don't know how you guys felt about this, but actually everything involving Kong in this movie I thought was actually done pretty good. For these movies that we come only to see the monsters, the human stuff here actually wasn't that half bad. It actually was kind of heartwarming at moments, between the characters on Team Kong is what I'm gonna call them, with Alexander Skarsgård, Rebecca Hall, and this deaf girl, who I thought, of those three, they're actually pretty good characters. They're not annoying. They don't overstay their welcome, and they actually managed to make Kong work alongside them in their plot line. Kong doesn't just show up and fight a monster and then leave in these Godzilla movies and even Skull Island. that's what happens with these monsters. They just show up and they fight and they leave. He actually is with them throughout the whole time. What's up, Steve?
No, I'll just chime in and say this because Scott Mendelson had a great point in his review about Rebecca Hall. I love Rebecca Hall. I think she's one of the best actresses today. Scott Mendelson said it best. He said, Rebecca Hall does a phenomenal job. She's mastered the art of shouting lines that will be used in the trailers.
Kong bows to no one.
Go on, though.
Like... The whole idea of like we need Kong actually to lead us to this Middle Earth, whatever the hell it was called, like, you know,
Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth, thank you. Middle Earth is from Lord of the Rings. We need him to lead us there, and like the fact that Kong is with them the entire time, he's actually part of their storyline. Actually was like, oh wow, like this works. This is actually how you guys should be doing this, like either like this or Kong Skull Island, where it's like it's a survival film, but the characters in this survival film are so fun, they're so colorful, and they're like just played by great actors, and it's just it was just done so well. On the other side of the spectrum, though, as much as I love Godzilla, the Team Godzilla stuff sucked, and was the stuff that probably actually slowed down this movie the most, with Millie Bobby Brown and I'm forgetting the other two names, but basically both of them are just comedic relief characters.
Brian Tyree Henry, I believe his name is.
Yeah, that was one of them, and then Julian Dennison was the other one. Both of them basically are just comedic relief, while Millie Bobby Brown is just trying to prove that Godzilla isn't going evil, because he's going on rampages throughout this film near these Apex facilities, and nobody knows why. But all that stuff was like, okay, this is what we hate about these movies. This was the issue with King of Monsters that I had. And it's like, at least in this movie, most of it is focused on Team Kong and only a little bit's focused on them. King of Monsters is, I know either of you haven't seen it, but if you want to know what it was like, imagine the Team Godzilla storyline, but that's most of the movie.
It's grating. It's real grating. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I didn't hate that stuff. You know what I'll add though before I send it over to Dom. And again, maybe I'm a little warmer to it just because of the fact that, like I said, said before, I preferred Kong. I understand though some of the grating elements of what we could call Team Godzilla scenes, because they're almost the characters are almost hysterical in a lot of scenes that they're in, because they're always rushing for something, where versus the Kong group feels a lot more measured and a lot more calculated, like time was actually spent into writing their motivations and such.
Yeah.
But you know what I came away thinking, though? This movie is like a decidedly old-fashioned blockbuster. And what I mean by that is that it's not Gareth Edwards like the first Godzilla, which is concerned with like apocalyptic subtext or whatever, or this like Spielbergian pacing. But it doesn't have the dynamic location and characters of Kong. It's got a neon-drenched Hong Kong, and that's about it. But you know what it is, though? I said this is the perfect blockbuster for people who love to bitch and moan that movies are too political these days, because there's no subtext in this thing. The biggest thing you could probably argue is technological overreach and the dangers of that. But there's no like embedded politicization in this movie. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it matter-of-factly. What say you, Dom?
Yeah, technological overreach, that plot point for maybe like 15 minutes, but yeah, it's a mess. It's just a big fat mess that is you think we would have learned by now, but you know, hey, look, it's making money, so whatever. Maybe there's no lesson to be learned other than these films need to happen. That's a very defeatist take on it. But yeah, honestly, just the math of that in Team Godzilla, there are two comedic reliefs in that team and none in the others. That's all stoic. That's all like straightforward, straight ahead. Yeah, that was never really gonna pan out well for Team Godzilla. But I'll start with the positives. I just like in 2014 Godzilla, and I think what I would like in the other movies of the legendary film series, because Legendary Studios, is the cinematography. So the sea fight where, you know, they have the carrier, Kong is in the water and all that stuff, and Godzilla's, you know, hunting him down and stuff. That's a very awesome cinematography.
Yeah.
I really liked some of the moments in there of just all the, you know, I can't help myself when all the destroyers are firing all weapons at this giant lizard. All right, that's pretty epic. That's pretty cool. It's hitting me in all the sensory whatever needs to be, made satisfied there. And it is cool to see a new dimension to the fight. So, it is Godzilla's territory because he is the one, not just king of the monsters, but in this fight, king of the sea might as well be, just because he's got the edge, whereas Kong has to play stepping stones in a very Evangelion-esque way, has to play hopscotch on full on US military destroyers, which I thought was pretty funny. But then outside of that, was the Hong Kong fight. It's really the only other fight that happens between Kong, and a little disappointing. I was really hoping for a 3, but whatever. But I guess you do get a 3 when the big bad shows up. But I was a little disappointed in that because really everyone is here to see these two legendary film icons duke it out on the screen, and seeing them duke it out in Hong Kong, I was like, God damn it. I feel like I got a better package out of the Jaegers, the kaiju and the Jaegers, the Pacific Rim. I was like, I feel like really? If I were to sit down and compare Pacific Rim to Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla versus Kong, excuse me, I feel like I would just settle more with Pacific Rim, just because even though the story there is also just as whatever, right? I just feel like they measured it more in, or rather the whole cinematography behind Pacific Rim was, how do we make these things look as huge as possible? How do we get, the general angling of everything? It was make it look big, make it look like you are a human and you are looking up, and it is freaking awesome. Obviously not every shot in Pacific Rim is that, but it captures that better than here, where it's like, this is just a freaking video game, dude. This is Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee for PlayStation 2. Like, holy crap. Like, all the sense of, like, at some points, all the sense of scale disappears. For things that are that big, things are supposed to be slower. Like you get in maybe the Gareth Edwards Godzilla or the Shin Godzilla. And it's all gone. It's the camera angles are zooming by, and this is like, what is going on? This isn't as grounded anymore. And it feels like, instead of being down here and being in awe of stuff looking up, we're on the same plane almost as the Titans, and it loses that sense of scale, loses that sense of epicness, and you're really just banking on the name brands of these two characters, and then you throw in another monster there, and it's like, okay, you tried with this, but this is just there are hovercraft in this movie. This is ridiculous. Which, hey, maybe that's maybe when I finished the movie, I was like, you know what? I think I just have to realize that this is the kind of movie it was trying to be. It's a turn your brain off movie. Yeah. It's a big baddies fight movie. This is pure science fiction, borderline fantasy kind of movie. So I know I said I was going to start positive, but I just, it's just where it landed. That is not nearly as hard as I could have gone, but I'll old man rants stop there for now.
You're right on that, though, about how you're like, this is the kind of thing it was leading up to be. And, I almost feel like with this MonsterVerse, like, Legendary, I know, had a hell of a time trying to rent, quote unquote, these like Godzilla for each movie, like, because Toho wants to go back to making Godzilla movies as well, from what's been reported. Yes. And that's why this Legendary series is supposed to be the conclusion of the MonsterVerse now, because Legendary's tired of paying the fees for all the monsters and stuff, the licensing fees to use the likenesses of these monsters. And you feel like, too, with the MonsterVerse, it was like, let's get these characters and we'll figure out the rest later. And that's why all these installments, I haven't seen King of the Monsters, but all these installments sound so different in some ways, or at least after Godzilla, then they kind of figured out where they wanted to go with it. And maybe they never struck that, like Godzilla, the original Godzilla from 2014 was too much subtext, too much, too much ancillary things. And then Kong kind of simplified it, and then it got lost again, where it's like, we could do both, can't we?
It's honestly feels like Star Wars new trilogy level of, we can't make up our minds, or like, we never really had a plan for this. I would like to know if the Godzilla versus Kong thing was more like shooting from the hip. It's like, oh, wait, what if we had them fight? What if we could get both? Or if they really had that planned out from the beginning. I will say I will take, out of all these films, well, of the two that I've seen out of the four, I guess, I will take Godzilla 2014 any day of the week because I can see the effort there. It's not a perfect movie. It's got a lot of flaws, but I will gladly take those moments and those attempts at trying to be what I think Shin Godzilla wound up being. I'm just saying, but I'll take that over what this, because this tries to be Avengers, right? An Avengers-esque kind of crossover, of a mashup, of a, you know, the big names coming together, but it winds up being like Justice League, the 2-hour Justice League, where it's like, come on, man.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
I will. This is
spotlight on me real quick. Whoa.
This is
hot take. Grab the hot take plank.
I'm gonna dig in on this one, but I don't really want to defend it too much.
That's rough.
I am being harsh with it.
You think Adam Wingard told, I'm gonna make you look stupid, Godzilla, if you don't say these roars?